On a cold, gray afternoon, November 24th, 1971, a quiet man in a dark suit walked into Portland International Airport and bought a one-way ticket to Seattle. He wrote the name Dan Cooper on the slip, paid in cash, and blended into the crowd like he'd done it 100 times before. No dramatic entrance, no nervous tells. Just a businessman with a briefcase and a clip-on tie. Or so everyone thought. Once aboard Northwest Orient Flight 305, Cooper took a seat near the back. He ordered a bourbon and soda, lit a cigarette, and stared out the window as the 727 climbed into the clouds. Then he slipped a folded note into the hands of a flight attendant. She tucked it away, assuming it was a phone number. He leaned toward her and said, almost politely, "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." Inside, he'd written his demands. $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, and a fuel truck waiting in Seattle. If the airline refused, he'd blow the plane out of the sky. When she looked at him, expecting panic or rage, she saw something stranger. A calm, steady man who seemed completely in control. The captain radioed the ground. The airline called the FBI. For the next half hour, a Boeing 727 full of unsuspecting passengers was circling above the Pacific Northwest, while in the back, a skyjacker negotiated with the United States government at 30,000 feet. The feds agreed. They scrambled to gather the money, $20 bills, each one carefully recorded by serial number, and found the parachutes. Meanwhile, Cooper sat quietly, sipping his drink, tipping the crew, and even paying his bar tab. In Seattle, the plane landed under bright runway lights and heavy rain. Cooper had the cabin lights dimmed and the shades drawn so snipers couldn't get a clean shot. On his orders, the passengers were released in exchange for the ransom and parachutes. Not a single one was harmed. To them, it felt like a long delay. Nothing more. They walked off the plane, not realizing they'd just survived one of the most notorious hijackings in U.S. history. But Cooper's plan wasn't over. He instructed the pilots to take off again, headed toward Mexico City, flying low and slow, with the rear stairs down. Somewhere over the dark forests of Washington, in freezing wind and driving rain, the pressure gauge flickered. A warning light told the crew the aft stairs had been lowered. That was it. No dramatic farewell, no final threat. Somewhere in that black void, D.B. Cooper stepped into the storm, clutching a bag with $200,000, and vanished. The search was massive. Planes, helicopters, ground teams, dogs, nothing. No man, no parachute, no trace. Years later, a young boy camping along the Columbia River uncovered a rotting bundle of cash in the sand. The serial numbers matched Cooper's ransom. It was the first solid clue, and also a dead end. Suspects came and went. War veterans, ex-paratroopers, drifters with tall tales. Confessions surfaced, then collapsed. The FBI collected a tie from Cooper's seat, cigarette butts from his ashtray, endless theories from the public. Still, no proof, no name, no body. In 2016, after more than 4 decades, the Bureau finally closed the active investigation. Officially, the case remains unsolved. And that's how a quiet man in a cheap suit became a legend. To some, he's a folk hero who robbed an airline and hurt no one. To others, he's a reckless criminal who gambled with a plane full of lives. But somewhere between myth and mystery stands a single, unshakable fact. On that stormy night in 1971, a man calling himself Dan Cooper walked down an airplane aisle and then walked straight into American folklore, leaving nothing behind but questions swirling in the clouds.